Salvete omnes. This is Abbey Latin Liber Primus, chapter 10. This is exercise D of chapter 10, parsing English to Latin. By parsing, we mean the exercise or act of giving the parts, that is, dissecting each word in a sentence in order to read the sentence. So how do we read? We start at the left with the first word, and we parse or dissect each word, moving towards the right as we encounter each word. When we parse an English noun, we are to give first the reason of that English noun because English derives its syntax mostly due to word order, the noun's placement in the sentence or with prepositions. We can also determine the number of the English noun in the sentence, usually by the addition of the letter S, if it's plural. And then, from the noun's reason, we can derive its case in Latin. For instance, if we know that the noun we're looking at in English is the direct object of the sentence, that will translate into the accusative case in Latin. And then once we have the equivalent Latin dictionary entry, it's a simple declining game. When we parse a Latin verb, when we parse an English verb, we are to give the person, the number, the tense, and the voice. Now, the answer for voice is going to be active, the active voice, and the mood. We now know the difference between the indicative mood and the imperative mood. The imperative mood, that shows commands. The indicative mood indicates fact. So for now, if it's not a command, it's in the indicative mood. If it's not imperative, it's an indicative. And then once we figure out the correct Latin dictionary entry, that is the principal parts of the verb, then it's a simple conjugating game. Like in sententia prima. The general used to fight in battle with his soldiers. Okay, the verb is used to fight. So he used to fight. Who used to fight? The general did. So the general is the subject of our sentence. Singular general, otherwise the plural would be generals. If this is our subject, then that must be shown in Latin by putting the noun in the nominative case. So we want the nominative singular, and the Latin word for general is imperator, imperatores. It's a masculine noun. So we want the nominative singular masculine of imperator, which is imperator. That was easy. Used to fight. We're going to go ahead and parse this verb now, but save it for the end when you translate it into Latin, like dessert. So, used to fight, who did? Well, he did, the general. So, third person singular. This is the imperfect tense in Latin, used to do something. So it's an imperfect, an uncompleted action in the past. He used to do this. He was doing this for a long period of time. It was his wont to do this. This is going to be active voice, because that's the only voice you know for now. And it's not an imperative mood. It's not a command. It's not fight. It's an indicative mood. So the third person singular, imperfect active indicative. The ending will be bot, B-A-T. And the verb is pugno, pugnare, pugnavi, pugnatus. So the present stem, because it's imperfect, would be pugna. Chop off the re, get pugna, and then you add bot, pugnabat. We're going to save that verb for the end. So he used to fight where? In which place? In which location? That would be in battle. We want the preposition in. If it's showing motion, if we're going into or onto, that'll be in the accusative case. But we're not going into battle. The general is already there. That's where he is fighting. So that's the ablative of location. We want in plus the ablative to show location, in battle, which is proelium e neuter. So we want in, and the ablative singular neuter of proelium is proelio, in proelio. And the general did this action, the fighting, alongside with, in the company of soldiers, which we can imply are his soldiers. If the word's in parentheses, you don't translate it into Latin. So with soldiers. With, that's accompaniment. It is indicated in Latin by the preposition cum plus the ablative. So we want the ablative of miles militis masculine, soldier. So cum militibus. Altogether, we could have something like imperator cum militibus in proelio pugnabat. And just like in math class, you've solved for x, you should be able to plug x back into the original equation. Basically, does this Latin sentence, imperator cum militibus in proelio pugnabat, mean the same thing as the general used to fight in battle with his soldiers? The imperator general was fighting, used to fight with his soldiers in battle. Yep, that's the same thing. That checks out. Excellent. And if your sentence doesn't check out, then there's something wrong with your work, with your parsing there. So you can go back and check because you've already written it down. Optime, secunda, sententia secunda. Where was the consul's father? Where was the consul's father? I don't know where he was. So where, we're asking a question. This is an interrogative. Where in Latin is ubi? That's ubi. Where was he? Well, this could be two tenses. It could either be the imperfect, which would indicate an action like where was he for a long period of time. The imperfect tense, that would be the third person singular imperfect active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. The answer would be erat, ubi erat. Or we could make it into the perfect tense, and that would mean something like more, where has the consul's father been? Where has he been? Where there's a finality, perfect tense, it's completed to the action. So you could say, ubi fuit. I prefer if you used erat here, ubi erat. So ubi erat, the consuls, so this is going to be a genitive of possession. This is possession. The consul is possessing the father. So the father of the consul. Where was the father of the consul? The subject of the verb was, this linking verb, is the father. So pater patris will be nominative, singular masculine, father. But consul, consulis masculine, we want the genitive of possession. So consulis pater. Ubi erat consulis pater? Ubi erat pater consulis? Optime. Tertia. The Romans used to give military command to the consuls. So the verb is used to give. Who used to give? Why, the Romans did. The Romans are our subject. The Romans must be nominative case, plural. The adjective is Romanus aum, and we're going to go ahead and make that nominative because the Romans and Latin is a sexist language. So Romani, the nominative plural masculine subject of Romanus aum, the Romani, the Romans. They used to give. Used to give. We want the third person plural, because Romans, they used to give military command. Third person plural, this is another imperfect tense. They used to give, they were giving. This happened in the past, continuously, habitually, over and over again. It wasn't just one time the Romans gave military command to the consuls. That would be the perfect tense. The Romans gave military command to their consuls. The Romans have given military command to their consuls. It happened, snap of the fingers, and that's done. This is the Romans used to give over and over and over again, imperfect tense. So third plural imperfect tense, the only voice you know is active voice, and it's not an imperative command, it's indicative mood, it's a fact. So the Romani, and the verb is do, dare, dedi, datus. We want the present stem da, and then bant, dabant. Romani dabant. What did they used to give? Why, military command. So this is the direct object of the verb give. This is what the subject used to give, military command. This is the Latin word imperium e neuter. Because it's neuter, the nominative and the accusative will be the same, and we want the accusative because this is the direct object. So imperium. Romani imperium dabant. The Romans used to give military command. Now, to whom did the Romans used to give this direct object? Who receives the accusative direct object? The consuls, the dative indirect object. The indirect object receives the direct object. The dative, and it's plural, of consul, consulis, masculine, is consulibus. Altogether, we could say something like, Romani imperium consulibus dabant. Quarta. We shall sail to the province of the king with great speed. With great haste. So, the verb is, we shall sail. Sailing. Who will sail? We will sail. So we is the subject. We is first person plural. We shall do this in the future. Future time, future tense. First person plural, future. The only voice you know is active voice. And it's not an imperative command. This is an indicative fact. We shall do this. First person plural, future active indicative of navigo, navigare, navigavi, navigatus. So navigabimus, navigabimus. Present stem naviga and then abimus. Whither shall we sail? To which place? In which direction? So motion. This is movement. We're moving in a direction, which is indicated by the preposition ad, ad, plus the accusative case, the accusative motion towards. So we want ad plus the accusative of provincia I feminine, which is provinciam. Ad provinciam navigabimus. To the province we shall sail. The province of the king. So the province belongs to this king fellow. So the king, this is a possessive noun indicated by the prepositional phrase of the king in English. The king is possessing the province. We could also say we shall sail to the king's province, the province of the king. So this will be the possession, which is indicated by the genitive case. We want the genitive singular masculine of rex regis, masculine. So that's going to be regis. We can also stick regis in between the preposition ad and the noun provinciam, which goes with ad, to say ad regis provinciam, to the king's province, to the province of the king. It means the same thing. And that just ensures that we know that regis, the genitive, is modifying or going with provinciam. It can't go with anything else. It has to go with the closest noun, that would be provinciam. Now, with great speed indicates how we did the action of the verb, not with what object or instrument, not by means of, but how, what style. It's almost adverbial. So preposition, cum, plus the ablative of manner, the ablative of manner. We have the adjective great, magnosaon, to agree with speed, which is celeritas, celeritatis. So we want the ablative, celeritate, singular feminine. That means we want the ablative singular feminine of magnosaon, which is magna. Macron over the final A, magna. You have to use the word order, adjective, then cum, then the noun. So magna cum celeritate. If you wanted to get rid of the cum, that's fine too. You could just say magna celeritate. So all together, ad regis provinciam magna cum celeritate navigabimus. Optime. Quinta. The leader of the camp will have announced the plan to the soldiers. Okay, the verb is will have announced. Who will have announced? Not the camp, but the leader of the camp. The camp's leader. So the leader is the subject. Latin word for leader is dux, ducis, masculine, leader. We want the nominative singular masculine, which is dux. Of the camp, it's going to be, we'll go ahead and say it's a genitive of possession. The camp's leader, the leader of the camp. So we have the one who is leading the camp. Some grammars would call this an objective genitive, but we haven't really gone over that. So we can just go ahead and say possession for now. So the Latin word for camp is castra, orum, always neuter, always plural. It only has 5 forms: castra, castrorum, castris, castra, castris. We want of the camp, so genitive, it's got to be genitive plural. Castrorum. We could say dux castrorum, or we could say castrorum dux. Just keep those 2 nouns together. Doesn't really matter the order. Will have announced, this is our verb. Who will have announced? Why, the leader. So he will have announced. Third person singular is he. Will have announced is future perfect tense. Will have are the helping verbs for the future perfect. Active is the only voice you know. It's not a command. It's not imperative mood, but it is indicative mood. Third person singular, future perfect, active indicative of nuntio, nuntiare, nuntiavi, nuntiatus. So he will have done this. So nuntiaveret, nuntiaveret. You take the third principal part, nuntiavi, chop off the I to get the perfect stem, nuntiav, and then add eret, nuntiaveret. What will he have announced? He will have announced the direct object, which is the plan, the consilium, neuter. Because it's a neuter noun, the accusative will be the same form as the nominative. So it's a singular noun, consilium. Castrorum dux consilium nuntiaveret. He will have announced the plan. Now, to whom will he have announced the plan? Do not put odd plus the accusative of motion towards. We're not moving towards the soldiers. We're not going in the direction of the soldiers. We're just talking to them. We're just announcing something to them. We're just shouting at them. Hey, you guys. This is going to be the dative indirect object. We're verbing the direct object to the indirect object. So we want the dative plural of miles militis masculine, which would be militibus. So altogether, we could say something like castrorum dux consilium militibus nuntiaveret. Sexta. The boys were praising their fathers and mothers, as good boys tend to do. Notice you do not have to translate their, the possessive there, it's in parentheses. So the boys were praising fathers and mothers. Simple sentence. So the verb is were praising. Subject, who's doing the praising? The boys. So they are the nominative and plural because there's more than one of them. That's their number. Puer, pueri, masculine. The answer is pueri. They were praising. So they were doing this in the past. This is equivalent to used to praise. This is going to be the imperfect tense. They were doing it. So third person plural, imperfect, active. It's not a command. It's not imperative mood. It's indicative mood. Third person plural, imperfect, active, indicative of laudo, laudare, laudavi, laudatus. This means to praise. So laudabant. Pueri laudabant. Now, what or whom were they praising? The nouns fathers and mothers. So these fathers and mothers will be our direct object, receiving the action of the praise, of the verb. Father is pater, patres, masculine. We want the accusative plural masculine. That'll be patres. And then we could have et for and, or because moms and dads kind of go together, fathers and mothers, we could use que. We can attach que, like a parasitic alien, to mothers. Now mothers is mater, matres, feminine. We want the accusative plural. Remember, your third declension masculine and feminine endings are blank, is, e, m, a, es, ibus, es, ibus. So matres. We could say patres et matres or patres matresque. Pueri patres matresque laudabant. Good for them. Septima. Carry my gifts, ambassador, to your king. All right, carry. That is porta, portare, portavi, portatus, to carry. We have imperative mood. We have a command. This is a command, an order. Carry my gifts, ambassador. So imperative mood. All imperatives are second person. The difference is whether it's singular or plural. We're addressing a singular ambassador, so we're talking to one person. So we want the second person singular, present active imperative of porto, portare. That's just going to be the present stem. So second principal part, chop off the RE, you get porta. If you wanted the plural, you would add TE to get portate, but we just need the singular porta. What are we carrying? Well, the direct object, my gifts, the things receiving the action of the verb carry. My is the possessive adjective meos aum, which agrees with gifts. Donum e neuter. Gifts is going to be the accusative because it's the direct object, and plural. Donum e neuter, that's going to be dona. If that's accusative plural neuter, my, meos aum, must be accusative plural and neuter. So mea dona. Porta mea dona. Carry my gifts. Now we have this ambassador dude, offset by commas, which is English's way of showing direct address. We are directly addressing the ambassador by calling the ambassador by their name or their title, ambassador. So we want the vocative case of legatus e masculine. Now this is one of the few instances in which the vocative is different from the nominative. First off, all third declension nouns, their nominatives and their vocatives are the same. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. The only time the vocative is different from the nominative is if you have a second declension masculine noun ending in us, like amicus, or say legatus. The vocative of amicus would be amicae. The vocative of legatus would be legate. Now, if you had a second declension masculine noun ending in ius, its vocative will be a single I, pronounced E. So filius, it'll be fili. Nuntius, it'll be nunti. Now here we have ambassador, that's legatus E masculine, so it does change to the letter E, pronounced legate. We do not put the vocative first, probably because so many of the vocative forms look like the nominative. You don't want to confuse it with the nominative, because remember the Romans don't have punctuation marks. So the vocative tends to be a little further down the sentence. So we'll say porta legate mea dona. And then to your king, towards your king, in the direction of where? Your king. So we are carrying these gifts, motion towards your king. So we want the preposition ad, ad, plus your king. We're addressing a singular you, ambassador, so we want tuus, aum, to agree with rex, regis, masculine. We want ad plus the accusative, motion towards ad regem. Accusative singular masculine, ad regem. So we also want this to be accusative singular masculine. Tuum, ad regem tuum, or ad tuum regem. Porta legate, ad tuum regem mea dona. Optime. Octava. Did he call for his brothers in a loud voice? Probably. People don't scream loud. So, did he call for his brothers? Don't translate the his in the parentheses. We have an interrogative. We're asking a question. So we got a question mark. Did he call? The verb is call. Who called? He called. So he is the subject. Third person singular. He. Did he do it? Perfect tense. The action was over. Like that. Did he do it once? So perfect tense. Third person singular. Perfect. Active voice. It's not an imperative command, but indicative mood. Third person singular. Perfect active indicative of woco, vocare, vocavi, vocatus. So we want vocavit. Vocavit. Because we are asking a question, We're not really trying to influence the outcome of the answer. We don't really care if it's yes or no, but it is going to be one or the other. Yes, no. So it's the neutral nay. Add the enclitic ne, nay, to the first word. I like the verb to be the first word of these yes-no questions because the nay attaches easiest to a verb. However, Romans will put, usually the first word is the emphatic word. So if you want to say something like, did he call for his brothers in a loud voice? You put brothers first and add the nay to brothers. You'd say like, fratres ne? Anyway, I like to put the verb first. So, wokawit ne? Did he call? For his brothers. Now, if don't add the for, like we don't want the dative here. It's just, did he call his brothers? Woka, wokare, the verb that we're using, that's a transitive verb, so it takes an accusative direct object. There are intransitive verbs in Latin that take a dative instead of an accusative, but woko is not one of those. Woko takes an accusative direct object. And even if we say in English to call for someone, that's still going to be the accusative direct object in Latin. So we want the direct object, brothers. In the accusative case of frater, fratres masculine, plural, accusative plural will be fratres. Blank is eme, eis ibus eis ibus. In a loud voice. Now, be careful here. I don't want you to put in, the preposition in here. Think about this for a second. Stop. Actually use the brain. Think about this. Did he call for his brothers while he was located inside a loud voice? Was he on top of a loud voice? This is like the messenger giving the battle signal on the trumpet. The messenger did not stand on the trumpet and then, yo, this is the battle signal. He used the trumpet to give the battle signal. He used a loud voice to call for his brothers. So don't just mindlessly see in an English sentence and think automatically that's got to be in Latin, because not necessarily. Think about what's actually going on here. He's calling for his brothers. He's doing the action of the verb by means of his loud voice. That's right. It's an ablative of means. Loud voice. You might be thinking, I don't know the word for loud. The Romans just use big, large, great, which is magnus aon, to go with vox, vocus, feminine, the Latin word for voice. Notice that vox is the noun, voco is the verb. So vox, vocus, we want the ablative singular feminine ablative of means voce, and we also want magnus aon to be ablative singular feminine as well. So magna voce, macron over the second final A in magna. Remember that the ablative of means, instrumentality, does not use a preposition. No preposition is used. So, vocavit ne fratres magna voce? Optime. No. The senator's sisters were looking at many broad plains. So the senator's sisters, we have the verb were looking. Who were looking? Why, surely it's the senator. No, that's silly. The sisters were looking at the many broad plains. So the sisters are the nominative subject. We want the nominative plural of soror, sorores feminine. Now the senator, it's got the apostrophe S. This senator, this is a possessive noun, possessing the sisters. This is going to be indicated by the genitive case in Latin. So we want the genitive singular senator of senator, senatores masculine. So senatores. Senatores sorores. They were looking, and make sure you include the at in the verb. They were looking at. Once again, this is a transitive verb, takes an accusative direct object. So don't put odd. There's no preposition here. The at is part of the verb. So they were looking at many broad plains, with the many broad plains being the accusative direct object. So this is specto, spectare, spectavi, spectatus. They were looking at. Who were? they, the sisters were, so they are third person plural. So they're imperfect tense, active voice, and indicative mood. So spectabant. Senatore sorore spectabant, nice alliteration, at the many broad plains. So many is going to be multus aum, to agree with plains, and broad is going to be latus aum, to agree with plains, which is campus e masculine. We want the direct object accusative case, plural masculine of campus e masculine, so that's campos. We also want broad, latus aum, to be accusative plural masculine, so latos, and many to be accusative plural masculine, so multos. Multos, campos, then latos. The adjective indicating quantity precedes a noun. The adjective indicating quality goes after, follows the noun. So altogether we could say, Senatores sorores multos campos latos spectabant. And decima. Where is the leader of the soldiers in the auxiliaries camp? Good question. Where is that guy? So where is the leader? We're asking a question here. Where? Ubi. Where is he right now? Present tense. Ubi est, third person singular. Present active indicative of sum esse fui futurus. Ubi est. Where is that guy? Well, who is that guy? Who is? What is the subject of the verb is? That's going to be the leader. Dux, ducus, masculine, leader. And we want the nominative. Well, that's easy. It's just dux. Ubi est dux, the leader of the soldiers, prepositional phrase, of the soldiers. In Latin, this is showing, this is the possessive noun. In Latin, will be indicated by the genitive case. Miles, militus, masculine. So we want the genitive and plural soldiers. Remember, the endings for third declension, masculine and feminine, are blank is em a, eis ibus eis ibus so militum. So ubi est dux militum, the dux militum. Ubi est militum dux. And the soldiers in the auxiliaries camp. So the soldiers in, we should say militum, and then we should put the ablative of location, because we're talking about the soldiers, the ones in the auxiliaries camp, the camp of the auxiliaries. So in, we are actually located in, not the auxiliaries, but in the camp of the auxiliaries. So auxiliaries, that's going to be genitive, and it's going to be the plural, auxilia, auxiliorum, neuter plural, which means reinforcements or auxiliaries. So auxiliorum. And then we want in plus the ablative of location of casra, orum, always neuter, always plural. Only got 5 forms. Casra, casrorum, casris, casra, casris. In auxiliorum casris. So something like, ubi est dux militum in auxiliorum casris. We can just keep pretty much the same English word order. Optime, very well done. That wraps it up for exercise D of chapter 10. You are now ready to move on to the Lectio Latina of chapter 10. Valete omnes.